brought me sprinkle cookies.
So what, no fucking TV now? Hey!
Maybe she's from Jersey.
Welcome back, everybody. Here's another episode of Maybe She's from Jersey. We're your hosts, Jackie Neese.
And Alex Curtis.
And we are so excited for our episode today. We have not one, not two, but four special guests. So I'll go in order of what? Should we start with the dogs?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is Banana. This is Dog. And then we have on here today no one better than Gabby Catania and Dolores Catania.
Hi. Gabby's the better one. As most people I meet that meet Gabby, they're like, your daughter's so much better than you. I'm like, that's the American dream. That's just how I wanted it. There you go. I'm not offended.
I've been told, yeah, your daughters are supposed to be the better versions of you.
Yeah,
Before we start, we started our sponsorship with Sunrise Bagels in Wyckoff, New Jersey. Never been there in my life, but their bagels are amazing.
Really
I had
good.
a
New
garlic
Jersey
bagel.
bagels.
So good.
are
Yeah.
amazing.
I always joke about this. Like, anywhere you go, there's always bagels everywhere. Are they good? Absolutely not. Nope, Jersey only knows how
I
to
just
do
got
it
back
best.
from Florida for 7 days. By the way, there was not one bagel to be found.
No,
Wow.
Florida's
Not like
supposed to
this.
be
It's
like-
not the same bread.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
listen,
sure.
I love this. Maybe she's
Yeah,
I
I
really
love that
love
for
the
you guys.
I love it, and no one ever questions whether or not I'm from Jersey. I could be walking on the beach in like Italy, or even I remember I was in Turks and Caicos. You were little. We were on a little vacation, and like the homeless guy on the beach goes, Jersey. And I'm like, I'm
guy?
walking. And he goes, because you look mad.
He was like, I'm not fucking with you.
And yeah, no, listen. Okay, just like, so it was around COVID and the homeless stuff was getting really bad in New York. I was eating outside as we were able to do. And I have on one of my tracksuits that I wear, like I have on now. And these guys were coming and harassing the tables. And it was the first time I had seen this, because we know this is what's going on over there now.
Right.
So they went to the table next to me, and they were really bothering them for money, for their food. And the waiters and the owner of the restaurant wasn't doing anything.
Right.
And here I am just sitting there like, you fucking come here, right? So they get to my table, and they go, yo, that bitch used to rob banks. Keep walking. And I just looked up, and I was like, okay.
I mean, Patterson and Dolores, they were like, I'm reading all of that.
Yeah. I'll never forget it. I was just like this with my pasta. By the way, I gained a lot of weight during
COVID?
COVID.
Absolutely.
It cost me a tummy tuck and a whole body lipo. It was out of control. Most of the people I know, they came out like all buff because they worked out every day. I don't know what I was doing every day. I walked out of this house one day with 2 different slippers on and my hair in like a bun and my pajamas on. I didn't come back for 2 days. No one looked for me.
COVID was like, I literally did.
I had an
and
absolute
gained the most.
breakdown.
Oh, I mean, that's like, when I meet people who were like, oh, the lockdown was the best time of my life. I'm like, are you a serial killer? Like, how? It's like weird if
Just
you were
not
like
for me.
okay during that time.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Being home has never been motivated.
No.
Oh, no.
When you were little, we were never home, right?
Never home. Out of the house 9 a.m. like all the time.
Out of the house 9 a.m., not back till 10 when it's time to go to sleep. There
Wow.
is no reason.
That's how I was too as a kid.
No naps. No one takes naps.
Yeah.
And you don't watch
I take so
TV.
many naps now.
You don't watch TV during the day.
Yeah.
Well, I allow that because you work. I always say the only reason you should be sleeping during the day is if you're ill or if you worked all night. I just,
Yeah. Agreed.
it is how it is. That's
Agreed.
how I.
This
that's
is
how I
giving
run
me
this
some good
bitch.
insight as
Yeah.
far as like pre-Real Housewives Dolores.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone can agree, like we see Dolores on the show. So we
Yeah.
definitely want to see Dolores off the show.
Yeah, so usually starting Housewives, people didn't get to know me for a couple years.
Yeah.
And I didn't push for that because when I had started, there was a lot of fighting. We were coming off the heels of Teresa had been away, and they brought me in because her and I were organic, like literally friends for a long time. And so I walked into a lot of fighting, which I was always very familiar because I did know that and was friends with them organically since the beginning of time for before that.
Right.
So if you want to know how they vet you or how this all happens, reality shows started, remember the Kardashians, 12, 13 years ago? And it was, iconic. And it was the Sopranos were on at the time.
Yeah.
So at the time, Housewives was just like kind of becoming something.
Yeah.
And they went around to all the high-end areas of the country asking, do you know a group of women to hair salons? And Thursday nights was girls' night out. And it was back then the Sex and the City theme.
Yes.
So a group of us would go out, get dressed up, have a reason to get dressed, and just go to the city. None of us got drunk. We'd order apple martinis and not finish them. We had our Jimmy Choos and get dressed. And then we'd come home innocently,
Yeah.
I was the divorced one on the show. Dina was just getting married. It was, that kind of thing. It was Teresa, Caroline, Jacqueline. And, we were approached by this production company. And they kind of all interviewed us. So being the single girl on the show, I wasn't sure about reality TV. There was a lot going on in my life at the time, and I just didn't want to do it. I think they kind of twisted my words, the producers, in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no one does that to me. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. And then they brought Danielle Staub on. And then I came on later on. I decided, but to come back on, I had to be interviewed again. I had to go through a whole interviewing process.
Wow.
Did they just ask your life story and see if they could make a storyline from it?
There was no story. Like in the beginning, it was just like, were they interested in us or not? And at the time, we were a group of girls that had never left home, had never went to college. We were just who we were, not realizing that the rest of the country was not like New Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So we were like, people were intrigued by us at the time. And again, it was the time of The Sopranos. And I remember Caroline Manzo saying, this is for a reality show. They didn't tell us what it was for or what they were asking us or questions. And she's like, we're New Jersey. They'll like us. And we're like, but what about us?
Yeah.
We're not overly educated. We're not overly cultured. We're just who we are.
Just what they want.
Yeah.
So
And
basically that's it.
we had a lifestyle. And, but it was more of, I think, we just were who we were.
Yeah.
Gabby at the time found these 2 dogs and they drove to Alabama for them. Arkansas.
Yes.
It was Arkansas. That's what Frank's girlfriend at the time called it, Arkansas.
She opens up a map and she's like, we're going to Arkansas. You guys bought the wrong map. And we were like, what? She's like, this one says Arkansas. And we were like,
Yeah. So
yeah, that's
Gabby wanted these
Frank.
2 dogs
so bad.
and mapped out how to get to them.
Aww.
And insisted on her dad. I can't stay in a car for more than 2 hours, so it was Frank's time to step in. So they drove to Arkansas and got these 2 dogs. But on the way, they had stopped at rest stations and bathrooms. And when they got to the Midwest, they were like, you have New Jersey police. We don't want your money. You're mob. You're mobsters. We don't want your money.
The car needed an oil change at that point, and they were like, take it, don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
just
were
go.
like-
Just
they were
look.
like,
We
"Is
don't
it
want.
really like the Sopranos up there.
And here we have, Frank's walking out with his muscles.
yeah, yeah.
Gabby actually stopped at one place where they asked her what her braces were on her teeth. They had never seen braces before.
Shut
up. We were deep. We were deep. In
Bumblefuck.
Yeah,
we were
that's-
deep in rural
man.
America.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it only dawned on us later on when Housewives of New Jersey became so they became so famous and like the table flipped.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
most Italian dinners.
We
Yeah.
always joke about that. We're
Literally.
like, yeah, it's iconic. We're like that.
I was at Lunella's last night.
That doesn't happen.
Really? Yeah.
That doesn't happen at your family function?
Yeah, like what? Like you guys yell at each other? Like what?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Like you threatened to kill somebody?
Yeah.
And
That's just a
mean
Tuesday.
it? When it's a regular Tuesday for us. But so, to sum it up, the Reader's Digest version of where this all started is that.
Yeah.
It was just a simple thing, right place, right time. And you could say there was, I remember going to the Hamptons, which was such a culture shock for
Yeah,
me.
sure. Never been.
I mean, you've never been?
No.
I've never been
Okay,
either.
well, I went with our group of friends.
Yeah.
And I showed up with my plastic bags, my suitcase.
Like Jersey Shore. That's what J-Lo did.
I showed up with my pillows and my plastic bag, garbage bag, and I mean, it was just like looking back now, they were like, ew. Who are these people and what are you wearing?
Oh my God.
What the hell was I wearing? So I got to know the way, like, it was just so interesting.
Yeah,
the other
sure.
side of the tracks was so interesting. And I remember a conversation I had with one of the guys there, just being out. And he said, fame isn't by talent. If you there was no Google at the time, or if you look up the first 10 most important things of fame, the first 3 is not going to be talent.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of all the people just were there at the right time, right place. There's a lot of
100%.
talented musicians in this world.
You
It could be nepotism. It could just be who's backing you, or even the Beatles weren't the hottest place. They just happen to become famous because they were at the right place at the right time, and the who was supposed to be more famous with them just didn't show up that day.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's true. I feel like the show itself is there's a bunch of Housewives now. There's a bunch of shows, different franchises. We always joke there's something so special about the Jersey one because one, the men are as involved as they are.
Yeah.
And 2, the women are just literally unlike any other housewife show.
Yeah.
I don't know maybe we're biased, but I just feel like the personalities are so different, but the baseline of it is so the same. It's like,
it's more relatable.
yes.
I guess I'd say, and typically we're hard to produce because it isn't scripted.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't really like to hurt each other. We really just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look like that lately, but we're not going to talk about that because we're on a little pause right now. So I'm just going to throw this out there and talk about not present. But typically, but the producers will also say we are the nicest housewives to work with.
Yeah.
Because we treat everyone like family because that is what New Jersey is essentially all about.
Yeah.
Right.
I always joke and I don't say I don't have fans, I have friends. I don't have friends, I have family. Because anybody who I've allowed to be a friend of mine, I treat like family.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Most people
I think
don't really
that's
get
what's
that.
so special about New Jersey too is everyone's like, oh, like literally one of our slogans is like, we're not mean, we're just from Jersey. And I really think it's not like that you're mean, you're just blunt and you're up front. Like you go somewhere else and people are nice to your face and then like the nastiest person behind your back. And I feel like here it's just like, this is what you get. This is me. This is who I am. Like, and with that comes like all of that family-esque stuff.
Right. So I have friends. I have made friends. There's very few friends that I considered to be close to me that I couldn't call in the middle of the night and ask them to do something for me or do something with me that won't. And that's before the show.
Yeah.
I've always been there for people. And I've kind of built a life where the people that I have let become close to me are people that would be there for me.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
I mean, that's honestly, it's rare. Like,
So I come with, when I'm dating somebody, I come with a lot of people that would do something for them, for me.
right.
And I've rarely will ask someone to do something for me.
Yeah, you don't see.
But
much
I
of
do
that.
ask them
Yeah.
to do for the people that I love.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, let's backtrack because I'm curious about Dolores way pre-show, like pre-Gabby, 20 years old, like
oh yeah.
at least 10 years ago, at least 15 years
I
ago.
was 25 when I had Gab. But you want to talk about a very green person to this world, yet very street smart. That's me. And I take a lot of pride in that.
You should.
I really do, but it didn't come easy. So growing up, my dad was a cop, my mom was a waitress, and I always, I was one of 5 kids
Wow.
in a small house. I worked from if I wanted something at 12 years old, I would work. I lied about my age. I waitressed in a pizzeria. My summers were working.
Yeah.
We didn't do much as a family together. We would go away once a year for a week at the Jersey Shore. We looked forward to that. I remember being excited once we got off the highway to see the sand on the road.
Yeah.
That was like what you got excited for, and we all went in one car and we stayed at like a motel
It was the best week of your life.
best week of my life. And and that's what you looked forward to.
So as like raising Gabby and Frankie, obviously you and Frank were separated when they were really little. What was like your experience being a single mom in this like Jersey-esque world? Like, did you feel a lot of like backlash? Did you feel isolated?
No one knew I was divorced.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I remember Frankie and Gabby were little, and they were in school a couple years before anyone even thought me and Frank were divorced. He showed up to the school things. If I had a party at the house, my mom would look around and go, "These don't act like men," because their wives were sitting and eating, and they were watching their kids. Like, I used to shut down the street. I invited everybody in the
block
school.
party?
Out of control.
My parties for my kids were what I didn't have.
We had rock walls. We had a mini boat. You know the boat that goes.
I had a carnival, and
Yes.
everybody was invited, and you could bring your family. Like, just come, just come here, and that's
for a good
It
time.
was like a baby street fair.
yeah. It was a baby street fair, and like my family was so enamored by the difference, the cultural difference of how people acted here and where I came from.
Yeah.
How did I become Miss Dolores? Frank and I became pretty successful.
Yeah.
In the beginning of our marriage, he did well, and I was here for it. I remember him saying, I remember him saying, I wanted to go to college. I always felt stupid growing up, not realizing growing up in the 70s, I was dyslexic and I had a bunch of learning disorders. I was just put in stupid classes.
Yeah, they didn't know back then.
No, and I was in trouble all the time. I used to try to make the F's on my report card a D, and I got in trouble for that. Or my dad.
Like a close one.
Huh?
It's not even
I did my best. And he would rip the phone out of the wall because it was like a rotary phone. I would get stuck in my room for like 6 months until the next report card. I wasn't allowed out of my room.
Oh, so very strict growing up.
Yeah. So it was not great. It wasn't a great situation.
You're
over
just
there.
like very tough now. So either that, I mean, clearly it worked in your favor in the end. I just don't know if there was like a distinct like shift where you're like, yeah, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. I'm not going grocery shopping for you. You guys.
No,
are
I don't
dope.
mind. Like, I don't even mind that stuff because I always did my own grocery shopping. Did I get a ton of money in that divorce? I didn't. Like, there were things I had to navigate just because if Frank had money, we had money.
Right.
But it wasn't given to me by the judge because Frank was a judge and his dad. Frank was a lawyer. His dad was like, they knew all about that stuff. When I took hadn't read a book up until then. And I took my divorce settlement to my father and I was like, can you help me read this? He goes, no. So there was nobody 28, but a very very green to the world 28 outside of where I came from.
Yes.
Like, there was my first time on a plane was my honeymoon.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know from like people couldn't. Frank will stay till this day. She wasn't with me because of what I was going to make. Yeah. Because I helped him along the way.
Yeah,
I asked for nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I learned from that, but I didn't learn a ton from that. Like, money has never been what drives me. Mm-hmm. But working, I like to work,
What did you do pre-Real Housewives?
Pre-Real Housewives. Well, my dream growing up, I wanted to be a cop. That was my dream.
Really?
Wow.
You would have been a good cop.
Oh my
I
God,
was.
I would have been scared shitless.
I worked in the jail.
She was a correctional
Did
officer.
you?
Up until I had Gabby.
Yeah, she was a
Wow.
Oh
Yeah.
She
shit.
was like literally 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You were 8 months pregnant working in a jail?
Yeah, I was.
Oh my God. Wait, you gotta tell a story. Can you tell stories like that? No? That'd be so funny. I can't imagine you 8 months pregnant with like just delinquents. Yeah. You're like bossing around.
We had the juveniles door in the morning, and we had the prisoners during the day.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
It was, listen, women,
What an experience.
they catch you cheating on a Friday, they're going to put you in jail. They would say you threatened to kill them because you know the judge ain't coming until Monday.
Yeah.
So your ass was sitting in jail.
For the weekend.
Hell hath
my
no fury like a
God.
woman scorned, I can tell you that.
Damn.
So my first job, I worked in a hair salon as a shampoo girl. I learned the most about life at 16.
Wow.
I remember
You hear
the
all
one
the
guy
talk in the
called
hair
me
salon?
Dolores Clitoris. Yeah.
It's before HR.
Yeah, Dolores Clitoris. He was gay. He was my first gay friend.
Oh my God.
And hell hath no fury like a gay man scorned.
Oh, for sure.
That I learned. That I saw the first male breakup in there. Like the ambulance came, the fights that would happen. Very passionate.
Shit.
You're like, I love this.
But you have to remember, like I was working in a hair salon and then waitressing with my mother afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
that's what I
If
learned a lot
you didn't
about.
ever do Housewives, would you have stayed a corrections officer? Or would you have
No,
wanted to
I
pursue other
stayed home
things?
with the kids. So I was married to Frank said you can stay home or you can, go to work. And at the time I was barely making $18,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I felt like it would have been at that time I could afford to stay home and I did.
Why not?
So, yeah, but that was more, I loved my job so much. I loved what I did because that was my dream, but I stayed home with them, and I don't regret that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no. I mean, my mom worked my whole childhood, and she, she kind of regrets it.
My mom regretted not being home. So my mom worked on the weekends and she was never home when we were home, and that she says if I can change anything, I would have changed that. So, I did stay home, but there comes a time where you can lose yourself too. So so after I got divorced, Frank said, get your real estate license because now you can sell all the houses I bought during the marriage because it doesn't matter what I have now. So I did.
You're like, bet.
So
Challenge
I did.
accepted.
So the challenge. So I got my real estate license. That was very hard for me to get.
Yeah.
Because I still didn't know I had this huge learning disorder. I remember I failed the first time I took it, and then the second time I'm like standing there. I'm like, okay, when can I take it again? They're like, you passed. I go, when can I take this test again? That was a huge thing for me to get my real estate license. So, and you could fail every math question on the test and still pass.
Wow.
So that was thank God for me. Gabby, what do you say my math level is at? Be honest.
Literally pre-K, like basic addition.
Basic addition.
When
She's
did you
actually
learn
really
about
good with
this learning
percentages.
disorder?
She's very good with percentages. Like if you
When
do,
did you
like,
learn about the
20% she's
dyslexia?
got you.
So fast forward, all this amazing money. Frank's buying boats and this and that, and Frank loses everything in bad investments.
Oh, God.
And I equate my, being able to make a living with having an education, but with a technical degree. So I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, I like plastic surgery. And being a realtor, I met this one girl that was getting divorced and she had become a surgical assistant.
Oh.
So I said, okay, I'll go to school for that. I thought it would be easy. It was so hard. I actually snuck Gabby's friend in to take my computer test.
Literally.
My computer final.
My best friend, yeah.
She's like, Dolores, I don't think I should do this. And I'm like, don't worry, just go sit in that spot.
You're like, it's fine.
And
Do
take
it.
And it was like, what was it? It was so simple to do, but I could not have done it. But anyway, I start working as a surge tech, and that was hard to do because here I am showing up. I'm making basically barely $18 an hour.
Oh, my God. Is a surgical tech?
Yeah, and so I realized I had a problem when I had to read the same sentence over. Now I'm almost 40 years old. I had to read the same sentence over and over again. I would sit over here and watch the sun go down and come up while I was studying stuff that Gabby was helping me with, actually.
Yeah.
So I did get that. I was very proud of that. And then being out there, I was like, geez, I'm not making ends meet. I started bartending nights when they were sleeping. So I would bartend nights, wake up 5 o'clock, get home
for
at
you.
3. What, 3, Gabby? 3 o'clock. Making maybe, because I was a terrible bartender, I don't drink. Bartending school was, I had a hard time with retention. Bartending school was hard for me to pass. I had to actually borrow $500 at this point to take the bartending course. And so I did that, and I would, while they were sleeping, then wake up surgical stuff, you have to be at work by like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because the first surgeries are usually like 6 o'clock.
Wow.
So
I mean,
I'd get a couple hours. I'd sleep once a month. I would say to them, just let me sleep, and I'd just take a full 24 hours. I wouldn't sleep most days I would sleep without a pillow or a blanket, not to get too comfortable.
Wow.
you're blowing my mind.
Yeah,
right now.
literally.
Like, what? How did
Yeah.
you do
How
that
did
for
you
so
do
long?
that? Yeah.
I did it for a couple, 3 years, Gabby?
Yeah.
Like 3 years
Yeah,
straight.
you started bartending in like the 8th grade, and then by the time Antonia moved back.
Yeah.
with us.
So,
God.
so realizing I had such a problem studying, and it's funny because I was by this time I was well spoken.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in a class, and the teachers would be like this is surge tech school, and I'm the oldest one there, and they're like, we expect more from you. Why are you not passing this test? And then I would have a few teachers that figured out what was wrong with me, and they would make me study in like sections.
Right.
They were able to show me.
Tailor the studying for you. That's
Wow.
crazy.
They tailored the studying for me.
Wow.
That's crazy. So up until Real Housewives, were you doing surgical tech? Or
Well,
you stopped?
then I met a doctor. I started dating a doctor while I was working, and he was like, "You're very interesting. I want to date you."
You're like, I know.
And I was like, I was so down and out because people would see me show up to the job, and they weren't nice.
Really?
No, they weren't nice. Like, I met some very good friends on that road. I found my friends, and I found who wasn't my friends on that road.
Yeah.
You will always meet your friends at your hardest times.
Yeah.
That's when you know who your friends are.
I say that about her all the time.
I always say you meet your friends on this road, and
Yeah.
it's true. So I met somebody, and then life got a lot easier
Right.
for us. And then one day I get a call from Israel saying, "Are you married to my husband?" Right,
Shut
Gabby?
Out of control.
So he had, kids in Israel. He would go visit, but he was divorced here.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have a get in Israel.
Wow.
So and you're like, yeah.
You're like, I
She
guess
goes
so.
like this. She was no slouch. That's when she goes, "If I find out I'm divorced in America, he'll be eating the shit out
Wait, that was perfect timing.
of me." Anyway,
What a scumbag.
things
my
fell
God.
apart. Things fell apart.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, life changed after that because when you catch somebody out in a lie, they become a different person.
What do you mean? Like, he became angry, or?
He became like, "Okay, well, you know what? I'm really sorry. This is how things are." And then things got crazy because things just started, like, he just changed.
Wow.
He changed. He turned. And
He couldn't handle the fact that you knew of his
Yeah.
flaws and lies. And
yeah. And then things changed. And then I look at my kids one day and I go, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And I was living in a mansion. I was driving a Bentley. I mean, these kids had tutors and friends over, and I took kids in, and
Yeah.
and I was like, and they were like, "You know what? He was good for us, but not for you." So I go, we go back to the life, and then they're like, "All right, well, let's do it." She didn't go to college right away. She didn't go in her dorm right away. She waited till I got settled,
Yeah.
and we just packed our stuff, and that was it.
Well,
Wow.
clearly they're very resilient.
I didn't want them. What I wanted most for them is not to have the same struggles that I had. And at any cost, I would make sure that didn't happen. And they didn't have it easy, even at that.
Yeah.
Like, there was times they were never entitled. Like, no matter what, they'd walk into their father's gym in our best of times and never told anybody they owned this huge gym.
They're the most
Yeah.
humble people I've ever met.
The most humble human
Literally,
beings
like, you
ever.
need to- You need to be
Literally.
more, like, I love myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they never. Well, I also was hard on them.
Yeah.
Too. Like even if things were easy, I didn't tell them
Yeah.
everything is about you. It was, but I
Yeah.
didn't treat them like it was.
Yeah.
What you said something earlier off camera about it. You said like the perfect amount of like discipline and love.
love.
Is that what you said? That was like that's put perfectly.
I think the most important thing was that people don't realize, like, I see a lot of parents make the mistake of, and it is the right thing to do, and say, it's all about you. You don't have to share your toy. You're better than that person. I did the opposite with them. And I made them worry so much about other people that they didn't. It's crippling. Maybe I should have not done it to the extent, but I made them worry that they never focused on what was going on with themselves.
Yeah.
So they had these coping skills. Like
Yes.
she would say, you know, Mom, come home and say, well, the teacher did this. Well, you know what? Life sucks. And the fucking teacher, fuck her, but too bad.
Yeah. That's literally.
Exactly. 3rd grade. That's how
She would speak to us.
I'd be like, you know what? Fucking life's not fair. Fuck her. And then but if it got to be too much,
Yes.
I have grabbed a teacher in the.
She did.
I did. Like,
You're like, Patterson Dolores, I'm coming.
it comes out.
Yeah.
Because in our hardest of times, this one teacher thought like my kids were so privileged, and Frankie was going through so much here. Frankie has to be very structured. I'm not a structured mom, but no matter what, I could never break that from him. So he would get in the car and say, who's picking me up from school? Call me. It would be 9:00 in the morning. My life is falling apart. I'm trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And I'd be like, I don't fucking know who's picking you up. I don't know. And he would go to school so frazzled. And she would give him a hard time because he had to hang. I remember he showed up late one time and he had to hang his coat up before he would start school. And she'd be like, no, leave your coat there. And he'd be like, but I have to hang up my coat.
It was like the only control he felt.
Yeah.
And
The structure.
she was busting his chops every day. Every day. And then one day he gets in the car and he's like, Mom, and he was just little. He was in 6th grade, I think it was. And she made the mistake of coming up to the car to say, he didn't know who was picking him up. And he was like getting worked. And I jumped out of the car and I blacked out. I don't know what happened after
I
that.
can't remember either.
Park.
I jumped out of the car and I blacked out.
Yeah. Like it was like
She
a
sees
street.
red. Like she.
No, I blacked
That's
out.
happened to me 2 times in my life. And I'm not like an aggressive. Well, I'm not an angry person.
You're just from New Jersey.
I can be. I can be aggressive,
I
but
jumped out of the car.
And like I used to see like if a kid fell, the mother would be like, "Oh my God, you broke your leg." Oh, they're the worst kids. They're the worst little jerk off kids. You just know that little fucking kid's gonna be screaming like his dog died when he gets up, and you want to just punch him in the face. Like, I can't be your friend. I don't want that mother talking to me, and I don't want that kid over my house.
Well, they're instilling the fact that something's wrong. They're acknowledging, they're like, oh, I should cry now. Like, something's wrong. Like, when you're like, oh, you're fine, get up. They're like, oh, I'm fine. Between Frankie and Gabby, who do you think is more like you?
So they're both like me, which is funny. Number one, you cannot fight the DNA. They just are a little bit of all of us. But I say they're the best parts of me and Frank put together. But so Gabby is post divorce, like she's tough and stuff like that. And then Frankie is me when I was like 5. I was the sweetest,
he is very
kindest.
So
That not that Gabrielle isn't. Gabby is selfless in this world. Matter of fact, Kim D just said to me yesterday. She was saying, "Gabby's so much better than you." Like it's my daily affirmation that I've done a good job.
Yeah.
To be honest, so I can't hear that enough.
Yeah.
And I love to hear it. But so Gabby's the tough part of me, and Frankie is the softer part.
I
of
can
me.
totally see that.
I see that.
soft and sweet.
I meet so many women and girls. They're like, Gabby's so badass. Like, I wish I was like Gabby. I'm like,
She
me too,
literally
sometimes.
spends her days saving like.
Well, I was gonna
animals'
say,
lives.
she's like, you're like tough, but with like the sweetest heart. And I feel like that's like you as well. And even getting to know you just sitting in front of you, it's like, those are the best kinds of people you could ever meet.
Thank you. And Gabby's very realistic. Gabby handles disappointment extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she knows that, like Gabby, I've never seen her cry because things didn't go her way.
Mm-hmm.
I see her get frustrated and out of anger, but then she doesn't take 1 second to feel sorry for herself. She'll just turn it around.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole get over it. Is like,
Yeah,
okay,
I
well,
mean,
there's
I
no
guess
other
so.
option.
Right.
So you move forward.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean that's that. And Frankie's a thinker. Frankie, we don't have a lot of patience for wanting
hell
to
is that?
talk about emotions, and Frankie wants to speak about things. So I tell Frankie to call my the friends, like my Jewish friends, the moms,
Yeah.
Jewish moms, I'm
Yeah.
like, call Eileen.
She'll do good. She'll do good.
You want to talk about your feelings? Call her.
Call Eileen, or if she wants a pep talk, like
Yeah.
you could fucking do this. I call my Italian mom friend. Like, I'm just not up for it right now, Frankie.
Yeah, mentally not there, but proud of you.
That's incredible. I guess we'll segue into some of the Housewives stuff of just like getting on the show. What is I'll use the word like audition process, I guess, right? Do you like?
There is, and it's actually a pretty lengthy, very detailed process. So so every year they look to cast. You do have a responsibility to introduce people, right? So what they do is a friend of yours, you say, this is my friend, then they interview them. I think first it's with an email, and it doesn't just have to be from you. They go on social media, they see people you've hung out with, they look at people with a certain lifestyle, a certain whatever. There's something that will grab their eye. They could be looking for, you don't know what, but they'll say, oh, that looks good for what I have in mind for the next person. Plus they get a lot of people that really reach out to them and want this so bad.
Wow.
I wouldn't even know who to reach out to.
Right.
How do you know
it's a
that?
production company.
Oh, so they're just
So they have people that are specific just for casting. So they see somebody they want to look into. Then you have like a Zoom meeting with them. You have several Zoom meetings. They get to know you and see if they want to move further. There's different steps. They're like, okay, now you go to the next step. You've passed this part of it. And it's all tests. Like, then now you're do an in-person interview.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when it gets a little further, they'll come to your house. They'll meet your family. What can you offer? What is off limits? What is limits? Nothing should be off limits. There's people that are like, well, this is my second marriage, and this is my daughter from my first marriage. Well, their father has to sign off on this.
Yeah.
Well, he won't. Well, then you can't film.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to be transparent, open, and be able to give every part of your life, which is not easy to do.
Yeah. Really.
Every single part of it.
Can't imagine.
I mean, I'd be scared.
Yeah.
You should be.
Was there anything that you were kind of iffy? I mean, I know you had said before you guys didn't have a formal conversation as a family, but was there anything that you were like really nervous about, or that
Nothing.
really you were like, ready, let's go?
I have no skeletons. The way I grew up, and first of all, before cell phones, so nobody's got me on camera doing anything.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
I also grew up in a very strict household where no one ever got drunk. I still to this day have not been drunk in my whole life.
Wow.
I've never smoked pot. I've never done drugs. I had to be home at 11 o'clock. I was getting married. So there wasn't a lot in and I lived a very clean life. Like, I have a conscience, and I have I have to answer to God. If I'm not afraid of anybody in this world, I also say that there's a God that someday I have to stand in front of.
Yeah, there's some beacon.
Yeah, and I also have my kids that I had to be like, listen, I could have had some fun. I was a young girl. I was single. I went to nice places. There's a lot of things I could have done, but there was the two people that I do answer to in this world, and those are my kids.
Yeah.
So that always kept me grounded. I have a very bad part of me. Like, there is a devil on my shoulder. I know my limits. If I did drugs, I would have liked it. I would have been not a good girl.
How do you stay so grounded on the show? Do you just try and distance yourselves from it?
No, the show never changed me in any way. The show to me is just a part of my life.
Yeah.
It's no different.
You just show up and you do your thing.
I show up and I am who I am. I don't do something on the show that I wouldn't do in real life. And that's probably the thing that saved me, but made things harder for me at times.
Who were you closest to on the show, would you say? And I know, maybe let's say this season.
This season, Teresa, I was in her wedding.
Yeah.
There's times where you're closer with some than others under different circumstances.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Different friends call for different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, and sometimes there's a division. If you have two friends that are fighting and one friend's mad at you because you're not mad at the person for what they did with them, then they're going to keep their distance from you. There's times that Teresa wasn't as close with me,
right.
And there was times that I disagreed with people not sticking up for me more than they should have when somebody was fighting with me. Like when I was fighting with Jennifer. But I never hold anybody to that because I don't want them to hold me to that standard.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you're fighting with my friend, you guys can handle yourselves.
It's also hard on TV because obviously it's not scripted, but it's cut a certain way. Like you're seeing very dramatic things unfold versus like you guys probably do have some more of a relationship that cameras don't get to see. And it's good TV when bad things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not everything's exciting. Like people don't get to know me that well because I'm not always the one jumping in on the fight.
Right.
The first thing I learned in therapy when I was getting divorced, I went to a therapist once. And
You left after you're like, done. I got what I needed.
and she taught me one thing that I took away from it, and that was emotions do not travel in rational channels. So when people are emotional, they are not going to listen to you. I don't need that scene. I'm not the girl that, I'm sitting here and they're fighting, so I don't want to sound quiet. So I don't want to be a part of this scene. Me being a part of it is waiting for it to calm down and then speaking rationally.
Yeah.
I don't need to scream and go, what's going on here? Like, get the fuck. Like, seriously, please. Because I'll just wind up beating the shit out of everybody if I get mad. So it's just like, it's kind of like.
The devil.
Yeah. It's my type. But I don't have the patience for that.
Yeah.
When things calm down and you're ready to listen to me, I'm going to tell you.
Well, I'm
how
sure
I
you've been
feel.
told this, but I think your persona and character on the show, at least from a viewer standpoint, is like a very grounded, realistic.
Don't ask me how.
Yeah.
I don't know how the series of events in my life brought it. I think that a lot of, like Gabby, like a lot of things didn't always go my way, so I'm able to handle when things don't go my way.
You handle things with ease.
And I have patience.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
I was going to ask too, do they ever do something where they kind of twist words around and you watch it on TV and you were like, that's not how that was supposed to happen or come out?
I've heard that that's happened, but it never happened to me.
Okay.
I never want to blame production for how they edit me because I know they can't make you do something that they can't like superimpose you doing something that you didn't do.
Right.
You have to understand there's what's expected of you, but you also have an accountability that when you do something, don't blame them for airing it.
Yeah.
True. Yeah,
That's
there
very
always
true.
has to be accountability, which no one ever likes to take.
How do you deal with negative comments on social media and things like that when they watch certain things?
I don't. I am not going to read negative comments. I'm not going to come back at you. And whoever in this position does, you're going to be caught in this abyss.
Yeah.
When I first started 7 years ago, I remember I'm up to like 980,000 followers now. I remember hitting 1,000. I've never bought one follower. When I first started this, one of the first things I said to myself was, I'm never going to use my social media for anything but good. Mm-hmm. Because I need the credibility of, having people trust me. And even if you do something bad to somebody that you're fighting with, people still remember how you acted and what you did.
100%.
Yeah. So I needed my social media. My platform was going to be for helping people and animals. Mm-hmm. And I can't say bad stuff about people. And then anyway, I don't want to argue with somebody who's saying bad stuff about me because the bad things I'll say back are going to get me in trouble. So I just don't want to say it.
I've been there. I get it.
I just don't want to. So my advice to anybody who's on social media, just don't engage unless that's what you're looking to do. But it's going to take and consume a lot of you.
Yeah. It gets me really angry. I have to just stay away
She's
from
got on social media fights with people who comment on some of my things, and I'm nowhere near any sort of high-end public figure. But sometimes
with my
someone
own
and she's
social
like,
media.
she's like, tell me where you live. You can't do
But you
that.
know what? It's okay when your friends do it for you. I don't do it for my friends because I'd be there all day.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of my other friends have like a social media clout like she does. So I guess I'm just like more on top of it.
It's so funny.
What would you say, aside from Frank, even if you would pick him, who's like your favorite housewife husband?
Oh, you mean, so of course Paulie's done so well.
Doesn't count.
It
Paulie
doesn't
and Frank don't count.
Paulie and Frank don't count. Who's my favorite? I get along with all of them.
I know.
I just love, I can't say
They're
one's-
hilarious
They're
together.
so funny.
Together, I love those scenes when they're like
I
doing
know.
guys' nights.
I love the guys.
I'm like, that's my dad.
One of them playing golf and Frank kissing his ass.
Gabby was so mad.
Honestly, that one wasn't even bad, but really the dildo on his chest.
Mom, we're professional. And Dad's taking shots out of a fucking dildo. Who's going to bring the dog to me?
Yeah.
You know what, Gab? When you're saving a dog's life, they're not asking you if your dad takes shots at a dildo.
No,
they
they're
just
not.
want to save their dog's life.
And if they're really good dog owners, they loved that scene. Yeah. I thought that was great. They did.
Oh my god.
Good point.
That's why I'd show up to you. I'd be like, hey, remember that time? So who would you say makes you, I guess, like the best TV then?
Oh, Frank and Joe do
Yes,
well.
they're
I mean,
dynamic.
they really
Incredible.
are. Them two together, because that's an organic friendship.
Yeah, I can tell.
Like, Joe's like, hey, go put your dick in the door and shut it, and then runs away. And like, that's like what I expect. And you know, it's so ridiculous, but that's what I expect from them.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And I guess, is there any like scenes that you can remember while you were on the show, like I have like in here like a TV tiff that really stood out to you that you were like, that was good?
Welcome back, scumbag.
Iconic line.
That
That did work in your favor.
I like this one because I guess that relates to me a little bit. Not that I'm trying to be on the Housewives of New Jersey, but I feel like being in the public eye is a very specific career, I'd say. Do you have any advice for anybody looking to become more in the public eye, or maybe to like the newer housewives that come on? Do you have any advice for?
I always reach out to, like, if I happen to see a new housewife and I like them, I'll reach out to them and say, welcome to the family. Remember, just be yourself, because that's who got you on, is yourself. No one can get you on.
Yeah.
Like, they have to pick you for you.
True.
Yeah.
So always remember, when you're filming or in the heat of the moment, don't try to be something that you're not, because that really screams out to the people watching. The viewers know when somebody's trying too hard, which is the corniest thing ever. If you try to like premeditate a scene, it's not going to go over well. You can't practice it. You can't practice life. You don't know what's going to happen, so don't try to.
Yeah.
It won't work out for you.
Yeah.
So that's always my advice, is just be yourself.
I like that. Do you have any funny behind the scenes stories that maybe either didn't make air or the cameras were just off?
sorry
and you were
about
like,
that.
no, you're good.
There's so many behind the scenes that I can't think of one. I have a really bad memory, so nothing stands out. Like when I'd have to really think about it. But we have so much more fun off camera. It's my sorority. That's what I call it.
That's cute.
Well, we met in a sorority, so.
Yeah? Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So I always could tell the sorority girls at the events when they all come together and they're like already pregame and they come up to you and they're like, oh, it's time for a picture. I'm like, you girls went to college together.
Yeah.
And I love that because they are such good friends.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about, you know, going through college with people and sharing the good times and the bad times of trying to graduate and going through life and getting to know yourselves and relationships and bad boys and you know, bad friends, bad girlfriends. So I never experienced that,
Yeah.
but I always admired that and envy that for people that have. So I can always tell right away. This is my sorority.
Can you talk about the reunion at all? Maybe not like specific things that are going on, but maybe just how they film it. When do you guys start filming that?
The filming for the reunion is your biggest time of the year. It's so intense. It's, I mean, across the board for any Bravo reunion.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's like, typically, physically, it's like getting ready for your wedding. My kids know that I am at the gym every day for about 2 to 3 months before there. I don't love working out. It's like poison.
I hate it.
I would rather drink poison.
I hate it.
On top of drinking poison to lose weight, I will.
You also work out.
I'll work out, and it's like grueling, and it's finding the dress, and it's getting your skin right, your hair right, your makeup right.
Oh my God.
You have a glam team that starts trying to pick out. I have a stylist. I have twins, the style duo. I have my makeup girl, Judy Gabay, my hair color, my hair extensions, Marissa.
Wow.
It is a whole team and a lot of money to get ready for this one moment. And this is your one moment to have your say, because it's your last chance to explain something that happened that you want to answer to.
Wow.
if you're lucky, it'll come up. Most of the times it does. The most controversial stuff comes up. And that's your chance to say it right.
And how long do you guys film?
Oh, that's our call time's 5 a.m. and we're usually done by 10
So that
p.m.
walk-in scene was 5 a.m.?
That's wild.
No, that's
Okay.
like hours after hair and makeup.
Frankie, do you want to say hi?
Hey everybody.
No, you're on the mic right there. Go say hi. Just stick your head in.
I'll pop in.
He says hi to us.
Hi,
Say
everyone.
hi.
Thanks for
This is
having me.
Frankie Jr.
Bye.
Bye.
Little cameo by Frankie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
it's
5 a.m.
5
you said.
a.m. When do you usually leave?
10 p.m.
Holy, that's a lot of talking. And and you're sitting in that drama. And, yeah, and that like you're sitting in this like
Like, you don't know what questions are going to be asked.
Wow.
they don't give you any forewarning.
Wow.
You can kind of know what's going to come up,
Right.
but
Right.
you don't know what else is coming up.
And how much do the men get to record? Because we only see a piece of it.
Just a piece. What you
Okay.
see is what you
Okay. That's really all it was.
How do you feel the day after? I feel like I'd be drained.
Most housewives go away the day after. They have a something planned. They go away.
Vacation.
You have to sleep. You're very tired, emotionally drained, and
Yeah. That's a lot.
How did you feel after this reunion?
I was just glad it was over, and I feel like, you know, it's end of an era.
Yeah.
I think of something. Either fighting should stop or whatever. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's yet to be seen. Like I always say, emotions have to calm down before you can see things clearly.
Yeah. And I feel like, does it help when you guys get to see the episodes back, or it makes it worse?
Help, you show up there so pissed off. Like,
Yeah.
the first episode, Jennifer called me an old leather handbag. I had no idea that she did that.
So this just brings
And then
up
people get
everything.
mad again. And she
Yeah.
called me. She's like, "We've come so far. I just got the first episode. I had not gotten it yet." She goes, "You need to watch it. And I'm apologizing in advance for what was said. I didn't mean it. I take it back. Let's not fight over this." I watched it. I called her. I yelled at her. And then we dropped it. Because I don't want to go back to... When you watch it, you have to kind of remember that happened 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so hard. That is so hard.
Because I'd be like, mother.
So you walk
Yeah.
on that, you get the rest of the episodes the night before the reunion, and you walk on that stage like both barrels loaded.
Wow.
Because now you see what everyone said behind your back.
Yeah.
And like confessionals.
You can tell in the first like 10 seconds, they're like, "We're back at the reunion." And everyone's like,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, "Oh, fuck."
That's
ready to
exactly,
go.
exactly right.
Wow.
So, yeah,
How do you feel like the new Housewives did this season?
I think they did really well. It's very hard to cast for New Jersey. We haven't had a new cast in a long time.
Yeah, really.
And they did really well.
Yeah. And I have it could really not be a fun question, but if you could bring back any previous housewife,
Oh, it's always Caroline. She's my
you would
girl,
bring
yeah.
her back? Yeah. I really liked her.
Yeah. Or anything you want to talk about, like,
Well, I always have charity events coming up. I have my baseball game.
Yeah.
I do every year. So I haven't booked it yet. Usually we film it and all the housewives come together. I don't know the dynamics of my team this year. I'm sure there'll be some housewives on, some housewives may not want to be around the other housewives. I don't know by the time it comes to that. They'll all be invited.
When is it normally?
This is how I handle things like this. I invite everybody and they can all choose to come or
Yes.
not come. That's like a lot of times I get a call and I'm like, I want to invite Teresa to something, but I want to invite Melissa too. I go, everyone's adults. You invite who you want at your place and they can decide what they want to do and don't hold it against them if they don't come or not.
Right.
And that's how I handle that. So I just haven't booked my my date yet, but I'll let you know.
I think I have to say, well, you've always been my favorite housewife, but I think it's so special that you use your platform to showcase your passion with philanthropy and the way that you give to others. Because I feel like there's so many opportunities to be like, oh, and look at this cool thing in my life. Look at this. And I feel like you really show how important it is to give back. Mm-hmm. And that's like the coolest
thing.
thing.
That's like my thing. It's what I like to do. That's what makes me feel good. It's like just my thing. I don't love working out, but I love going to the shelter. I enjoy it and sitting with the kids there or the moms and bringing stuff. and they're so appreciative. I go to this little forgotten about shelter. It's called Hilltop Haven. Gabby comes with me. And if I know somebody's moving, I can't get furniture there, but I can bring clothes, I bring dishes, anything that you're getting rid of outside of big furniture, I take.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they're women of domestic violence and they show up but nothing but their kids and their clothes on their back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's what I love to do.
That's
And
incredible.
It's a good way to use your platform for sure.
Yeah, and then the hospitals that are mostly charity
Yeah.
based, that softball game raises a lot of money for them. And even St. Joe's Hospital in Patterson is 80% charity care.
Wow.
So I see what they do. The people are there for their heart, so they need help.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining, everybody, and thank you so much for both of you for being here.
Yes.
Having me.
And thanks for hosting at your place with the 7 million
You know,
dogs.
my door is always open to the kids.
Literally. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.